Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning, having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's had a great week out there so far. We got some things to talk about in this morning's video. Of course, we've been talking about this winter storm over the last several days. The main portion of the storm is now out in the ocean, but we got this back-end moisture that's pivoting down south. Could bring a little bit of a surprise this morning into early this afternoon for areas of the Carolinas especially. But, you know, this is going to sweep across the mid-Atlantic also. So we're going to cover everything. By the time some of you folks are watching this video, maybe it's already happening, but I'm very, very interested to see what happens with this banding of snow that could form sort of in the foothills of the Carolinas and then drift all the way through the Carolinas over the next several hours. In fact, we're already reporting flurries as far south as central South Carolina. So we're going to cover that right off the dot, and then we'll talk about today's entire forecast for the entire lower 48, and then we'll speak a little bit on the longer range, as there is some things that point to still shots of cold air, maybe even some winter weather for the eastern half of the country. So we'll speak a little bit on that. We'll begin to focus a lot more on that as we move past today. So appreciate you guys trusting me with covering this storm. Most of the feedback has been positive. Of course, when the views are getting pretty high and the engagement is high and we got a high-end storm system we're tracking, we're going to have some negative comments in there. But that just comes with what I do. And the more I grow with this and the more I just move along with this, the more it doesn't really bother me anymore. But anyways, thank you for the incredible support. We've had a lot of growth covering this storm, as we are now over 101,000 subscribers. We just hit 100,000 last week. So appreciate you guys trusting me. But if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling. So this is what's going on right now. We do have a piece of energy kind of pivoting through the central Rockies, bring some snow to like Salt Lake City. But this is that back-end energy I'm talking about, bringing just a wintry morning across the Great Lakes region. But you see this stuff down here across the southern apps. I mean, it looks like we got some flurries flying around in middle Tennessee, maybe even some stuff all the way down into Alabama and Mississippi. Show some flurries down here into the panhandle of Texas. But stuff you do not see that is happening is some flurries flying around even in the Piedmont and North Carolina, and even all the way down to central South Carolina. In fact, I'm going to jump off this really quick and go to Radar Scope. And we have some snow flurries being reported around Newberry, and this is the radar out of the Greenville-Spartanburg area. Nothing being reported around the Greenville-Spartanburg area as of around, what time is it? This is around 6:15. But I can guarantee you, once people start waking up, heading off to work, we're going to start to get some snow icons popping up here on radar in northwest South Carolina. But we do have some snow being reported between Gastonia and Charlotte. And we're going to start to see a lot of these reports. And this is what we talked about in last night's video and what we're talking about this morning. Here comes the bands of snow coming off the foothills and just the mountains of North Carolina. And all this will most likely pivot east and then southeast through the Carolinas. Now, will it hold on strong all the way down to Columbia, all the way over to Raleigh? Well, we're going to find out over the next several hours. So here's a better look at the radar. And I guarantee you there's some flurries flying around the Greenville-Spartanburg area right now. There's just nobody reporting anything. So let's go on and get back off this and start breaking down some short-range guidance. Now, this is a now thing, but we can still look at short-range guidance, right? So this is the latest HRRR model that we have, and this is verifying about an hour ago. So let's go on and bump it up to about 7. So this is what the HRRR model is saying should be happening in the next 45 minutes. Should have some more blossoming of maybe heavy returns of moisture across the Piedmont and North Carolina into the upstate of South Carolina. And what this particular model run says is we're going to have more blossoming of this moisture. And listen, I think Charlotte could be the highlight area of this little feature. I think Charlotte could sneak and get an inch of snow. And it's going to catch people off guard that thought that, you know, this system was over, even though we've been talking about this. And I've been seeing a lot of the local meteorologists talk a lot about this too. It shouldn't sneak up on you, but this could cause a little chaos for the morning commute in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, and all the other surrounding areas. But, I mean, as we're getting into about 9, look at this heavier, look at this darker blue showing up, like northwest of Columbia. This could be a burst of snow. It'll be cold enough, really in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Surface temperatures really isn't a whole lot different than they were maybe this time yesterday morning, maybe a couple degrees colder. It's really the upper level temperatures that support snow so much more now compared to yesterday, especially further south. But this is a nice burst of snow up here in Virginia. And then we continue, and I mean, check this out. This is around lunchtime. And it shows snow all the way down to the central Midlands of South Carolina. Columbia getting a burst of snow, still snowing up in Charlotte. If this run is correct, it could snow in Charlotte for a good 5 hours. If that happens, you're going to get at least some light snowfall accumulations. One thing that the HRRR model does show is this band kind of dying out before it really gets to Raleigh or the eastern sections of North Carolina and South and Virginia. I'm sorry, but it keeps some nice banding features early this afternoon, cruising through South Carolina. And I mean, this isn't just some light returns. These are almost convective in nature, meaning, I mean, a true burst of snow. I'm not going to say you're going to get a clap of thunder, but I am saying I wouldn't be surprised if you do. And I doubt it, highly doubt it. But there is some energy in the atmosphere, and it shows these snow flurries making it all the way to the South Carolina coastline. And I'm sure we are going to get some widespread light snow and flurries, even though this doesn't look very impressive for eastern North Carolina and southeast Virginia. But it's interesting to see this all the way down to Charleston. And then we're done with it. And it gets very cold tonight. And if you look at the NAM model, guys, I mean, it's a lot more aggressive with it. Maybe a little bit too aggressive. It shows here in the next 45 minutes, this light snow and flurries should be really widespread. And they could be. This has a tendency of really blossoming quick. And by the way, it's still snowing pretty good up into the Tri-Cities areas, Western Virginia, Eastern Tennessee. But it really shows a gnarly band coming together about mid-morning, surging through central North Carolina. We got flurries and some light snow all the way down to Columbia, moving through the PD of South Carolina. And I mean, lasting all the way through 1 p.m., we still got some light snow and flurries flying around central South Carolina. This moves out of the Piedmont. And the NAM shows the same thing. Some flurries trying to make it all the way down to Charleston, Georgetown later this evening. I mean, I think it's a possibility. I think the short-range model guidance does well with these kind of features. And sure enough, I mean, there's flurries being reported right now. So it's already handling this pretty well. Now, let's see what the latest HRRR model shows, because there is a new one out. Let's see if, I mean, really none of this matters too much. And it looks about the same. We're just some bursts of snow. It's not maybe quite as aggressive for Charlotte, but none of this really matters. Honestly, showing you this doesn't matter a whole lot, just because it's kind of a now thing. But it just shows scattered burst of light snow, maybe moderate snow kind of drifting through, and it'll be an interesting morning, I can tell you, with watching this. Now, if you're looking at snowfall totals, heck, who knows, right? But if we look at the run of the HRRR model, it really wants to drop about a quick inch of snow around Mecklenburg County and the bordering counties. And it also wants to drop a couple tenths of an inch of snow all the way down to the Midlands of South Carolina and maybe a half an inch of snow around the Greenville-Spartanburg area. Now, is this Mitch saying this is exactly what's going to happen? No, that's not. I'm just looking at model guidance. I think a lot of times people take what I say as I'm telling them that's exactly what's going to happen. But unless I say, hey, I expect this to happen, which I rarely do because we don't really know what's going to happen until it does. But what I can tell you is I expect some light snowfall accumulations in this area that the HRRR model is showing. But do I expect 3 inches of snow? I don't think so. But I would not be surprised one bit if you get 1 inch to 1.5 inches of snow around the Mecklenburg County area over the next several hours. I wouldn't be surprised one bit. And I wouldn't be surprised if you get a dusting into South Carolina, maybe more. So we'll continue to figure this one out. Well, I would say we'll continue to figure it out, but I mean, we'll pretty much have it figured out here in the next several hours. I think I'm so used to saying that. But the National Weather Service forecast is definitely highlighting more so the Piedmont of North Carolina and central areas of North Carolina. But, we'll continue to watch this over the next several hours, and definitely hit me up on social media. I'll be following it like crazy, but will be an interesting next several hours and into the afternoon hours for sure in this area. This is what the NAM is showing, for example, and NAM want to bring, same thing, it highlights Mecklenburg County and into the northern areas of South Carolina, a little bit into the central areas of North Carolina, and it gets a little bit of snow all the way down to Columbia. But anyways, moving past that, we can pretty much say goodbye to that now because, I mean, it's a today type of thing, right? So the rest of the forecast for the southeast will watch those flurries, light snow to the Carolinas, and this will probably go through Virginia too. And then after we get into the late evening hours and the overnight, all the way into tomorrow morning, we'll wake up to a frigid late February morning for sure. It'll be very cold as very cold high pressure settles in. So definitely be prepared for a cold morning tomorrow morning for your Friday. That's for sure. So, but the northeast, we'll watch that energy that'll swing through, and this will blossom widespread snow showers across PA and surrounding states today. Northwest flow will be running pretty well across West Virginia. Some snow will start to blossom across eastern Ohio especially. And these snow showers will make it all the way into New Jersey, New York City, maybe even to Long Island for sure. Southern New England could get some snow showers. And this continue throughout the evening hours and all the way into tomorrow morning. So we're definitely going to get some light snowfall accumulations. Could get, a couple inches of snow in Cleveland, a dusting of snow up to an inch in eastern and southeastern Ohio. And just looking at a couple other states, this is PA, Pennsylvania, just dusting amounts over the next 24 hours or so. Pittsburgh, maybe an inch of snow. So we're definitely going to get a light coating of snow across these areas. And just to round this off and look at these areas, New York City could certainly get a few tenths of an inch of snow, enough to maybe coat everything for sure. So, and then I think I need to get a good look at the Mid-Atlantic. Certainly could get a half an inch, maybe close to an inch around the Mid-Atlantic, Baltimore, D.C. area. Definitely will this energy will swing through this region and add some light snowfall accumulation. So, the South Central U.S. quiet day. We had a bit of a surprise for Dallas. We had 2 rounds of lake effect snow. I'm not sure what that added up to. If it added up to anything, that was probably a very dry, powdery snow flying around. But I think that's the second year in a row that's happened in Dallas where it really wasn't seen or picked up on radar, which it's or seen or picked up on model guidance. But, it's definitely a difficult thing to figure out. I wish our lakes here in the southeast would do something like that. That would be cool. But anyways, the rest of the South Central U.S. will have some snow that will drift into the Denver metro area, the foothills of Colorado. Some snow will be pivoting through eastern Colorado in the wee hours of the morning, tomorrow morning. And this little spin could drift all the way into western areas of Kansas and southwestern areas of Nebraska tomorrow morning. And who knows, maybe tomorrow morning you have a bit of a wintry mix in south central Texas. We'll see if that ends up happening. We did have a little wintry mix pretty far south in Texas yesterday, which was a little bit of surprise also. But today across the Great Lakes region, the Midwest, upper Midwest, we'll have some lake effect snow that'll drift all the way down to the southwest counties of lower Michigan, maybe a few counties in northern Indiana. This will add up to a few inches, I'm sure. Very cold conditions, but outside of that, really, there's no one else getting really anything over the next 24 hours. And then the western U.S. will continue to get this snow event across Utah and the central Rockies surrounding states. So, dropping some accumulating snow on Salt Lake City this morning, and this will continue to spin around to Colorado. And then we'll have a pretty warm system that really only affects the extreme northwestern areas of the Pacific Northwest with some rain. But snow here in Utah, a few to several inches of snow around the Salt Lake City area. And this energy will make it into Colorado and dump a few to several inches of snow depending on where you live. So, temperatures today, very, very cold. Sub-freezing high temperatures, and not as common to see this deep into February as if you saw this around January 20th. February 20th, we're kind of getting later in winter, so this is a pretty impressive air mass really for the south. Very cold temperatures all the way down into the northern half of Florida. Sub-freezing highs for a lot of people, and then some people just struggle to get out the 30s. And very cold, I would say, east of the Rockies. Not as cold, across the Rockies compared to your average temperatures, and it's nice and warm in the southwest. So going forward, guys, I know this is the 8 to 14 day outlook. This takes us from the 25th of, this takes us from the 27th of February through the 5th of March. So we're starting to get into the spring months now. It doesn't feel like it out there, but you're going for below average temperatures for this time frame for the entire eastern half of the country. except for maybe the southern tip of Florida. So it's saying that it's going to remain cold, and it's also saying in this time frame it's probably going to remain somewhat active, where they are calling for above average precipitation. This tells us we're probably going to continue to have some storm systems flying around. Now, what is really driving this pattern? If we start this off next Monday, I think we'll have another trough or storm system in the blue that digs down the eastern U.S. The blue symbolizes a dip in the jet or a storm system and a shot of cold air associated with it. Ridging will continue to flex, and look at this ridge that flexes across in this orange color, warmer colors across the western U.S. We call that a positive PNA. So as the ridge flexes, this will allow for another dislodgement of cold air, and a big trough might drop back down into the eastern half of the country with maybe a storm system associated with it about a week. A week from today, this is going to bring another cold shot of air with it for our last few days of February. You know, when you see that blue, this is symbolizing most likely at least a cold shot of air. But this is probably some sort of storm system late next week. We just got to figure out the details of that. And then maybe another storm system after that. And then maybe a ridge builds in, and we're starting to get pretty far out. We're several days into March at this point. And then it shows just a wholesale dislodgement of cold air, and just a huge, it just looks like a bunch of cold air drops down a few days into March for the entire lower 48. You see all that blue dipping down into the lower 48 like that, and you see a connection of the blue to the Arctic all the way down to the lower 48. You know that we got a pretty big dip in the jet stream, and I'm definitely watching this time frame. It's just very far out. You compare this with the GFS ensemble with what it shows, and it's not done running yet, so we'll have to go to the OOZ. And it shows something very similar, guys. A huge, yeah, I don't know. This could be a very cold air mass for early March standards. Might be dropping down. So if we look at temperatures compared to your average high for this time of the year, and just note that your average highs and lows are going up. They've been going up since late January. So the greens and the blues you see on your screen is not as cold as what it would mean if it was in late January, is what I'm trying to say. So just remember that. But I think we're going to have a warm-up for a good section of the country as we're getting into about early next week. And I think this will bring some nice spring-like temperatures. Just don't let it fool you, because by the time we're into the end of next weekend, kind of first full weekend of March, below average temperatures return, stays warm out west. And then towards the end of the run, it still remains pretty chilly in the east, maybe warm in the middle of the country. And then it shows everybody cooling down towards the end of the run because of what I just showed you, a kind of a true Arctic connection, almost a cross-polar flow that really sets up for early March. And the cold source is really from, the true north. So this could, I'm just watching a several days into March. I think something funky can happen, an anomaly. But I'm certainly watching this time frame. As far as storm systems, we start at Sunday and could have a clipper that flies through the Great Lakes area, but we'll have a warm period in this area. So I think we'll get a lot of rain, if anything, but it does have a storm system. And this is what I'm talking about. Remember, I told you a week from today we can have a storm system, and it matches up well with the lower heights over the eastern U.S. And here it is, a 997 millibar low. The last couple of days of February could bring maybe a powerful storm system across the eastern U.S. This will sweep through, and then some more dips in the jet stream come in. This is 10 days out. Looks like a very cold air mass surges down, tries to show some winter weather 10, 11 days out. But at this point, it's so far out, it doesn't matter. Shows a big storm system cruising across the middle of the country. So I don't think we're done with powerful storm systems or anything like that. But looking at the latest GFS, same thing. I haven't even looked at this one yet. There's a little clipper that flies through. Then we get the middle portion of next week. There's that storm system I'm talking about flying through a little bit further south on the GFS. It's next Thursday, so about a week from today. Shows a heavy snow event across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley into the Northeast. That's not a forecast. And then we get between the 7 to 10 day range. There's that other dip in the jet there with a big cold front. What does that do? Who knows? We got to figure that one out. And then towards the end of the run, it just shows a lot of cold air being drop down. But as you can tell, even though we're getting some big shots of cold air, these systems are still warmer because we're getting into March now. We'll need a very, very cold air mass to really come down to bring any sort of southern snow for early March. it gets harder and harder for obvious reasons. So that's all I got, guys. Made that video in around 20 minutes, so that's pretty impressive. But we'll be getting to get more detailed on this pattern to come here in the next several days. But, you know, I'm probably going to back off on the evening videos. I don't think it's really necessary. I'm going to take a break, a little bit of a breather, and through the weekend most likely. And if something really starts to latch on again, kind of like what it did with this last winter storm, then we'll start doubling up those videos again. But as mentioned at the beginning of the video, do appreciate all the support we're covering this winter storm. Picked up a lot of growth. Picked up almost 1,500 subscribers since hitting 100,000 subscribers early last week. So yeah, that's a big spike in growth covering this winter storm. So thank you for all the support. Welcome to any new subscribers, and yeah, and enjoy the little surprise that we potentially could get here in the Carolinas and surrounding states over the next several hours. God bless.